Hey guys, can you see me? I am on my screened-in porch, and there is only candlelight here, and it is almost getting dark. Let me move you closer. Okay. It is not scary here at all. We have lots of lights, and I love all the crickets and the sounds out in the country, and I am not scared at all. But I remember someone told me once that their grandmother lived alone in a house for about 40 years, and this is a grandchild talking, and the grandmother had rockers on her front porch, and she told them to never sit in the rocker that was on the right side of the porch after dark. Never, not to do it. Well, you know how cousins are. One of them, prodded the other one into doing it, and so they did, so they wouldn't look like a wimp. So they went and sat in the rocker, and it was after dark. They were outside catching lightning bugs. And later that night, they were spending the night with their grandmother. And later that night, they were in an upstairs bedroom sleeping, and they heard something on the front porch. And they looked out the window, and the rocker that he had sat in started rocking back and forth very slowly, but you could hear it and you could for sure see it because she kept the porch light on all the time. So they were very upset and scared. And the next morning, the grandmother pulled the oldest one aside, which was the one who had sat in the rocker, and asked if any of the children had sat in the rocker after dark while they were outside playing. And he had to tell her the truth, and he said, yes, so-and-so, made me do it. I didn't want to look scared, so I did it. And she said, I told you not to sit there after dark because there might be someone else already sitting there. And he looked at her like, what are you talking about? And anyway, she told him the story that she had gone to church one Wednesday night and left her husband sitting on the porch in the summer, just enjoying the weather, and he would probably be sitting in the same place when she got home. So she came home, and sure enough, he was still in the rocking chair, but he had passed away while she was gone. Now, these grandchildren had never known their grandfather. He had been gone a long time. But anyway, that's kind of weird, isn't it? Yeah. I had a scary thing happen to me a few years ago. Actually, it was terrifying to think about it. And I have touched on it long months ago. I think before I was even monetized, I told the story, but it bears repeating. And sometimes I get it on my mind, and I think about it for like 3 days. So it's been on my mind, and I won't tell things like that inside my house. You know that I won't do that. So this is what happened to me many years ago. I lived in a very large house. We had bought a farmhouse, an old farmhouse, and we had added on 3 bedrooms and 2 baths to the end of it. So it had 7 bedrooms and 3 baths. But it was rather rambling and large. Now I need to tell you how it was laid out. forget about the new part. Just the old part had a big open living room. I mean, it was big with a fireplace. Then next to it was a kitchen, bathroom, and it made a circle. Kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, bedroom, back to the kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, bedroom, kitchen. It made a circle. Now, in the kitchen, there was an upstairs, and the wall was covered. You couldn't see the stairs. You had to walk up on a little platform and then go up the steps. You know, old-timey upstairs. Well, I had made that, I'm sorry, I had made that area my workroom. It was 2 bedrooms that my 2 older children had actually slept in before we built ours. So, I'm upstairs working. Now, my husband and I had just started our divorce process. Yeah, we had. And so he was not living there. I was living there with 4 children. I think they were 16, 13, 8, and maybe 2. Or 6 and 2. I don't remember. Something like that. Now, this was a Friday night. The whole house had 7 doors, and I never locked them, except at bedtime. We lived in the very middle of 30 acres, 32 acres. I mean, no one ever came down the road or anything. You know, we were like isolated. So I worked upstairs in the 2 workrooms. Okay. Now, I had a playpen at the top of the steps, which my 2-year-old would play in while I worked, and I was right next to her in the other room, which was a small room, but I could see her. That's where my sewing machines were. So, that was the deal. Now, my husband called me on a regular basis. I've already told you that he was not a communicator. He didn't beg me to come back to him or anything. He just called to talk about random things, just to keep in touch, hoping that I would miss him, I guess, and come back to him. I don't know. We never talked about our marriage, or God knows we never talked about anything important. Anyway, that being said, I'm working. My baby's right there playing. We're alone. It's during the day. My other children are at school. Okay. Now, I hear someone whistling in the kitchen. Whistling. And I'm thinking, that has to be Brandon, my oldest son, who drives himself. So I was going to go down there and see why he came home early. So I went to the top of the steps. He was still whistling. I took 1 step to go downstairs, and the phone rang. Well, I ran a business there, so I had to answer the phone. I went back, picked up the phone, and sure enough, it was my husband. Well, we talked for, I know, an hour. Now, my baby is getting restless. It's past her nap time. And I finally tell my husband that I have to go put Chassie in her bed downstairs for a nap. So, he let me go. I picked up Chassie, walked down the steps. Remember, it's a circle. I went through the bathroom, and the first bedroom was my little baby Chassie with a baby bed. You know, it was like open to our bedroom, the new part. And that's beside the point. But anyway, I put her in her bed, gave her a pacifier, and she was going to go right to sleep, I could tell. She was very restless. So I went back upstairs, finished working, or continued to work, and it was getting close to 3, and I knew I had to go to town to pick up my children, except my husband said he would pick them up and bring them home and bring a movie for me and Ashley, she was probably 13, for us to watch that night. You know, he was being very nice to me. So I said, okay. Now the deal was, he was going to take Dylan, who was, like I said, 5 or 7. He was going to take him to spend the night with him. Okay. And the oldest son, Brandon, had already told me that he wasn't coming home, that he was going to his girlfriend, and he would be home later that night. That was okay too. I knew her and her parents. You know, everything's cool. Okay. So I finished working until I hear children running in the door, right? Okay. So I went downstairs. I got Dylan some clothes ready to go with his dad. He brought us a movie. It was Let's Throw Mama from the Train. I will never forget it. Never, ever forget that movie. Although I've never seen it. Anyway, so he left with Dylan. I've already told you Brandon wasn't home. So I'm home with Ashley, who is 13, and my baby, who is 2. Okay? Now we piddle around in the living room and, you know, might have went to the kitchen, made something to eat, whatever. It was beginning to get dark, and I said, you want to watch that movie now? And she said, yeah, let's watch it. So I was about to put it on, and I said, run to the bathroom and get a pamper and let me change chassis before it starts. So she goes through the kitchen, which she has to pass the steps and go into the bathroom to get a pamper for chassis. So she came back. She didn't say anything. She just handed me the pamper. Now we're at right at the front door where I'm changing chassis diaper. Now I'm changing it. Now up above us is the workroom where my ironing board and iron is, right by the window. The room where the playpen is, where chassis plays during the day. Well, we heard this awful commotion right up above. I knew exactly what it was because the sound was obvious. My ironing board had been turned over and the iron had fallen off the ironing board, and you could hear the iron rolling. I knew exactly what it was because that's where it was. Ashley looked at me immediately and she said, I heard somebody walking up the steps when I went past the kitchen. That's all it took. I said, go to the car. I opened the door because it was right there. Keys were hanging right there on the door. Picked it up. We walked out, got in the van, and we left. Now I'm going to my mom's. Where else am I going to go? She lives about 20 minutes away. So we're almost at my mom's, where I grew up. And I come to a 4-way stop, and I stop. And all of a sudden, I remember that someone was whistling in my kitchen. I was terrified. I was terrified. Obviously, my son had not come home. It was not my son. We didn't have cell phones back then. I couldn't call and ask or whatever. Oh my God. I went to my mom's house, told her what had happened. Well, he called the police. They went up there and went through my house, They said my ironing board and iron were not turned over, although I know that's what fell. And they could not find anything where someone had been there. Now, let's think about the scary part. Oh, my candle's freaking me out. I love it out here. Okay. Number one, there was someone whistling in my kitchen. I have no doubt about it. I was kind of ticked off. I thought Brandon had come home early from school. Okay? Now, what if CL, I didn't mean to say that. I'm going to try to blur that out. What if my husband had not called me? What if he hadn't called me? I was already started down the stairs. I would have been confronted with whomever was standing in my kitchen, trying to get my attention, obviously. Okay? Who knows what would have happened? I think it was very typical of what was going to happen. You understand what I'm saying? My little baby upstairs by herself. Okay. So, I'm thinking that it was someone who knew that my husband and I had separated, and they knew where I lived. They knew it was isolated, and they may have even known that the doors went locked. I don't know. That could have been checked at a different time. I don't know. I don't know. But that's what I believe, and I thought about this, and I think that I have probably seen that person again in my life, but did not know that it was that person. It's kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know how else to explain it. Who would be out there on 32 acres? We were right in the middle of it. Who would know to go there? Who would know? Hey guys, I'm sorry for the interruption, and I do apologize that you can hear my air conditioner running. But here is a little cowgirl that I am selling for $29, and it has an easel with it. I'm trying to zoom in on it. Okay, it's a little cowgirl I painted. I only have one of them, so whoever wants it first, it is in the link below, the very first link under the description of the video. She's very cute. Okay, back to the story. Now here's the second part that is kind of ironic. What if I had not told, well, that scared the crap out of me. Did y'all hear that? It sounded like a ladder. Okay, I'm okay. Okay, what if I had not sent Ashley to the bathroom to get a pamper for Chelsea? Okay? She would not have heard. Now, what if whoever it was dark up there, you know. What if that person had not knocked over the ironing board? What if that person had not knocked over the ironing board? I just can't think about that kind of thing. We'd have watched the movie, gone to bed. You know what I'm saying. because I wouldn't have gone back upstairs. Now, if Ashley had not heard the steps going upstairs, I may have gone upstairs to see what had fallen. But no, she immediately said, I heard someone walking up the steps. They were just old wood steps, old farmhouse, you know. So she had heard them as she went by. And I don't know why she didn't think to tell me when she came back. Maybe she just thought it was the house creaking or something like that. But she did hear them. And all she had to say to me was that she heard something. And that's all it took for us to flee the home. Okay. Now, I go back to my mom's. I'm not staying there that night. I get back to my mom's. Oh my gosh, it's about 12 o'clock, and I go, oh my gosh, because while we were there, we did not lock the doors. I just stood in the living room while the police roamed around the house. Now let me tell you, there are a myriad of places for someone to hide in that house. It was large. We had a large family. It was big. Okay? I happen to remember that Brandon was coming home about 12. Well, I freak out. We don't have cell phones. I didn't want to call. I didn't think he would answer the phone. Now, understand that Ashley and Brandon had a room on the end of another porch, a new porch. They had their own entrance, their own door. Now, Brandon would have went in and gone to bed, whether I was home or not, and not thought anything about it. That's just Brandon. And I knew that's what he would do. So Mother and me and the kids had to get back in the van and go back up there. Sure enough, there's his car. Lights are out. We go up on his porch, open the door, which not locked, and wake him up and make him leave. I said, Brandon, you don't understand. Someone has been in the house. He actually did not care. He didn't want to get up. Well, we made him get up and go to my mom's. And we stayed there, I know, a week. We did. I just could not go back there. I was alone with 4 children. It was terrifying to think about it. I know there's lots of other people who have not been as lucky as I was. I think God had intervened in small things to make me not go down the steps, to make my husband call me, and for whoever was there to knock over the ironing board. I believe God intervened, and I'm forever thankful that I wasn't hurt, and for sure that my children were not hurt. Now, my daughter Chassie, who was 2, hates to hear this story. Because you remember, I took her downstairs and put her in her bed by herself. And she just knows he looked at her. She does not want to think about that. And she watches my videos, and this one's going to freak her out again. But I just thought that would be a nice, like scary tale to tell tonight. I hope you enjoy it, and I will see you next time. Love's coming your way.